Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to another Dunlap Institute Astronomy Trivia Night. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. We'll start the stream a little bit early and give people a chance to filter in. So if you sit tight, you can register for our Kahoot games, which we will start in a few moments. If you're hanging around looking for something to do, you can chat me a question in the chat on YouTube, and I will be happy to try and answer it as we go along. Otherwise, just hold tight for a couple minutes while we wait for a few more people to filter in. Just a note, if you're signing up for the games on Kahoot, if you want to be able to win a prize, please use your real email address. And the only thing we will use that for is to contact you to give you a prize. We will not contact you for any other reason, but we do need a way to contact you if you win. Okay, so welcome to those of you who are just joining us. We're again going to give it a few more minutes just to let people filter in, but if you've just joined the stream, please feel free to sign up for our games following the instructions on screen. They've also been posted in the chat on YouTube. And if you're wanting to learn a little bit more about something we're going to talk about this evening, which is the solar eclipse in a couple of days, you can open up the video description and there's some links in there that might interest you. We'll get started in just a minute. Okay, so welcome everybody to another Dunlap Institute Astronomy Trivia Night. We are so glad that you are able to join us, especially during these challenging times. We're here to hopefully provide some levity and some education and a chance to engage on a topic that's beyond a lot of the concerns that we've been dealing with day to day. Before we begin, I want to begin with a land acknowledgement, which is something that we do at the University of Toronto to acknowledge our debt to the Indigenous peoples upon whom the university is located. So we wish to acknowledge that this land on which the University of Toronto operates has for thousands of years been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. Today, this meeting place is still the home to many Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island, and we're grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. Okay, so welcome on behalf of the Dunlap Institute. My name is Michael Reed. I'm a professor of astronomy at the University of Toronto and the public outreach coordinator for the Dunlap Institute. So who is the Dunlap Institute? We are one of several astronomy research groups at the University of Toronto, and our special focus is on astronomical instrumentation, which means building new kinds of cameras and equipment and things to allow us to learn about the universe in new ways, and also what we call big data, which is using humongous data sets and processing them, computationally to try and learn things about the universe that no one human could learn just by poking through images one at a time. So I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have about the Institute, but right now I think we will get into the games. So for those of you who are just joining, the instructions on how to join our trivia games are on screen. You go to Kahoot, KAHOOT.IT, and then enter the PIN number on the screen, which is 5652804. So again, go to kahoot.it and enter 5652804. When you're prompted for an email address, you can enter whatever you want, but if you want the ability to earn a prize, we do need an email address that we can actually use to contact you. So do please fill in your real email address. We won't contact you for any other purposes. We won't put you on our mailing list, anything like that. It's just for the purposes of handing out prizes. So just to allow people to kind of trickle in, I'm going to give people another minute or so to sign up on Kahoot, and then we will actually get started with our game. Hello, everybody in the chat. Thanks for joining us. You can let us know in the chat maybe where on planet Earth you are joining us from. Newmarket, wonderful. Welcome, Darren. Gravenhurst, Maine, wonderful. Sudbury, oh, Sudbury, you're getting pretty close to the right territory for viewing our eclipse on Thursday. Kelowna, welcome, British Columbians. Kitchener, Ottawa, Toronto, Bolton. Welcome, everybody. Okay, so I think we've got most people who are on the stream signed up for Kahoot. We'll give you just another few seconds. Lots of Toronto people, London. Wonderful. Okay, so we will keep going. If anyone joins a little bit later, you'll still be able to sign up, but I want to go over some of our rules and then we'll jump right into the trivia. Okay. So, this will be our solar eclipse themed trivia night. So the questions tonight will pertain in some way to either the sun, the moon, or eclipses. A few quick rules. Absolutely anyone can play from anywhere in the world. However, we can only send prizes to Canadians and only those living outside Quebec, or only to addresses outside Quebec. If you have an advanced degree in astronomy or equivalent experience, I'm afraid you are not eligible to win prizes. And that's just so all of our friends with PhDs in astronomy don't win all the cool things. If you're under 18, you're welcome to play. Please make sure you have your parents' or guardians' permission to play. Keep the chat respectful and family friendly. Absolutely everybody is welcome here. Happy Pride Month. But we want to make sure that the chat is open to absolutely everybody. If you want a prize, you have to, as I say, use your real email, and that's only so we can contact you to let you know that you've won and give you your prize. Okay. The prizes for tonight are 3 lovely prizes. The first is our custom limited edition CHIME Lego set. So what is CHIME? CHIME is the Canadian Hydrogen Intensity Mapping Experiment. It's a radio telescope in British Columbia, Canada, which doesn't look a lot like the telescopes you might be familiar with. There's no big mirror to pick up visible light. It picks up radio waves, and it is being used to do a whole variety of things. It's studying this interesting class of objects that we've just discovered in the last few years called fast radio bursts. And it's also being used to build one of the largest 3-dimensional maps of the early universe ever constructed. And we have our totally unique Dunlap Institute only CHIME Lego sets that will go to our grand prize winner tonight. Our second prize winner will earn a 3D printed moon globe. This is a lovely kind of a lamp that lights up in different colors. And our third prize winner will receive a constellation mug. So those are our 3 prizes for tonight. Okay, so one of the reasons we're here tonight is to celebrate an event that will happen in a couple of days, just under 2 days. So on June 10th this year, there will be an annular solar eclipse. As we go along, you're going to see some of the questions will unpack what an annular solar eclipse is. But if you're in the Toronto area, if you want to see this eclipse, it will be happening as the sun rises on Thursday morning. So that means you're going to need to set your alarm, get up a little bit early, and look in the sort of east-northeast at about 5:45 in the morning. Just as the sun rises, the eclipse will already be in progress. You're going to need safe viewing equipment, and we'll come back to that in a few minutes. I'll tell you more about this eclipse as we go along, but this is the reason for our eclipse theme tonight. Okay, so here we go. A solar eclipse, first question, happens when, which of the following? So you have 30 seconds to answer, and you earn extra points the quicker you answer. "12 more seconds. A solar eclipse happens when what?" Okay, 78 answers, and time is up. All right, wonderful. So that's our very first question. And let's see, so 69 of you got that one correct. The answer is indeed that a solar eclipse happens when the moon passes between the Earth and the sun. Now, a lunar eclipse happens when the Earth passes between the moon and the sun, so that the moon falls into the shadow of the Earth. But what we're going to see in a few days is a solar eclipse. Okay, so let's see what the scores are so far. So we have Lucky Pelican at 972. So here's a diagram showing you the difference between total and partial solar eclipses. A solar eclipse, again, happens when the moon comes between the Earth and the sun. And when it does that, it casts a shadow on the Earth. Now, that shadow has a very dark part, which we call the umbra. And if you are one of the lucky people who's in that umbra, then you will see a total eclipse, or an annular eclipse, sort of. We'll come back to that. If you're not in the umbra, but you're still in the shadow, you're in the less dark part that we call the penumbra, you will see a partial eclipse, where the moon will eat a chunk out of the side of the sun. And that's what the majority of you who are joining us today, if you see the eclipse, that's what you will see, a partial eclipse. Unless you're in the far north in Canada, northern Ontario, northern Quebec, Nunavut, then you would see the annular version. But here down at lower latitudes, we will see a partial version. Okay, so there's some people asking in the chat about the Kahoot code. Maybe Kara could post that. So here's our next question. An annular solar eclipse is called annular because, so this is a tricky word, annular. What does that mean, annular? So 30 seconds for this one. If you're just joining, yeah, you can see the Kahoot IT URL and the code at the bottom of the screen on the right corner there. All right, so a little bit trickier this one. So the reason we call an annular eclipse annular is because the word annulus refers to a ring. So what happens during an annular eclipse is that the moon blocks out some, but not all of the sun, and so we see a ring. I'll show you in a moment. So our current leader is still Lucky Pelican with 1943 points. Okay, so an annular solar eclipse happens when the moon is a little bit farther from the Earth. The moon varies its distance from Earth as it orbits. Sometimes it's a little bit closer, sometimes a little bit farther. And if a solar eclipse happens when the moon is a little farther from the Earth, then you get an annular eclipse, where that darkest part of the shadow doesn't quite touch Earth, but people who are in that direction will see the moon block out most, but not all of the sun. So that will look like this. Those of you who are lucky enough to live in the far north and can see the full-on annular version of Thursday's eclipse, will see something that looks like this, where that's the moon in the center, the dark thing, blocking out the most of the body of the sun and just leaving that ring, that annulus we call it. So that's why we call it a annular eclipse. Okay, next question. Which of the following chemical elements was discovered during a total solar eclipse? People often ask, what is the scientific value of eclipses? Well, here's one answer. Adam, where in the north? Yeah, so if you look in the video description, there's a link to timeanddate.com, which will show you the detailed eclipse path on a map, and you can see whether you are located in the path of annularity. Okay, a few more seconds for this one. Okay, so this is a tricky one, but the majority got it right. So the element that was discovered during a total solar eclipse was helium. And the clue here is in the name. So helios is the Greek word for sun. And helium is a chemical element that was discovered not on Earth, but on the sun the first time. Okay, so who's our leader this time? Oh, still Lucky Pelican, although a lot of people are really close. So remember, you get more points the faster you answer. So if you want to try and edge Lucky Pelican out of the top spot, you got to answer quickly. Okay, next question. What kind of eye protection is required to safely look at an annular eclipse? So Joe, if you're getting a different question on YouTube than is on Kahoot, you may just need to reload your YouTube so that it is in sync with what we're doing on Kahoot. It's possible your YouTube is lagging behind a bit. Okay, so last few seconds. All right, so in terms of safe eye protection, you do need a pair of certified Eclipse glasses. So those can be purchased from, all sorts of reputable vendors. The important thing to be aware of is that there are also unsafe Eclipse glasses. So there's a link on the video description to the American Astronomical Society, who maintain a page that will show you the names of all of the approved Eclipse glass vendors, so you can make sure that you're getting something safe. That said, it is only 2 days until the eclipse, and maybe you don't have a pair. So what can you do to view the eclipse if you don't have a pair? I'll show you that in just a moment. So let's see the scores. Lucky Pelican still on top, but it's a close race. If you're seeing a bit of a delay between the questions appearing on Kahoot and them appearing on YouTube, there is just that little lag that YouTube builds into the stream of a couple of seconds. So you may need to refresh your YouTube just to keep it as close to in sync as possible. Okay, so let's talk about how to actually view the eclipse. So let's say you want to view it, but you don't have a pair of Eclipse glasses at home, or you're not sure if the ones that you have are safe. Don't take any risks. Don't try. You'll find, different people on the internet recommending different strategies that are not safe. You have to be very careful, because the risk is if you stare at the sun, even for a very short period of time, because the sun emits very intense light and very energetic light, it can damage your vision permanently. So you need to be very, very careful when staring at the sun. Normal sorts of sun protective wear, like sunglasses, are definitely not enough. You do not want to look at the sun using something like that. What you can do is what's shown in this picture. You can really easily just take anything with holes in it. You can take like a spatula that's got holes, or a colander, a sieve. You can even just interlace your fingers together to make holes. Or you can take a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen and just poke holes in the paper. And then if you hold the paper up and project the light onto a wall or another piece of paper, whatever you have handy, you'll see little images of the sun through each of those holes. You may need to sort of play with the distance a little bit to get it to focus reasonably well. But as you can see in this photo, you can actually see little images of the eclipsed sun. This was during the total solar eclipse in 2017. So this is a completely safe way. You don't look through the paper at the sun. You project the light from the sun onto another sheet of paper. So people have some questions. Can you use the viewer you got in 2017? That's a hard call. If it's completely undamaged, it might be safe, but they do sort of degrade over time, and they can accumulate scratches. Scratches are one of the really big concerns. So I personally wouldn't, but it's your call, I would say. Okay. So again, you may be a little bit out of sync on the YouTube stream, but here we go with the next question. So our next question is, what song contains the lyric, "Your love is like a shadow on me all of the time"? I had to try not to sing it. Which of these songs contains that lyric? Okay, 10 more seconds. Okay, so 50 of you correctly guessed that it was Total Eclipse of the Heart by Bonnie Tyler, who was in that image you just saw. Classic song. Okay, Eclipse themed. So who's in the lead now? Oh, still Lucky Pelican, edging ahead a little bit. So you got to try really hard if you want to catch Lucky Pelican. All right, so our next question, this is true or false. True or false, there's a solar eclipse somewhere on Earth at every new moon. So every time the moon is in its new phase, is there a solar eclipse somewhere on Earth? True or false? A few more seconds. And this is indeed false. There is not necessarily a solar eclipse somewhere on Earth at every new moon. And that's because the moon's orbit is tilted relative to Earth's orbit around the sun. So sometimes when the moon is new, that is when it comes between the Earth and the sun, it's above the sun or below the sun. And in that case, you don't get a solar eclipse. Okay, so current leader, oh, still Lucky Pelican, edging ahead. Let's see if we can get some Red Boa is pretty close. Let's see if Red Boa can snag this on the next one. So the next question will be, which of these is not an actual title of a movie from the Twilight series? Maybe someone can defeat Lucky Pelican on this one. So Neil, yeah, your glasses were only used once and then stored in a protective envelope. Again, I would say given that it's your vision and it's the risk of permanent damage, I would be err on the side of caution. Okay, so let's see what you said. 61 of you got this correct. It was indeed the Twilight Saga Blood Moon, which sounds like a Twilight movie, but isn't. It wasn't the Eclipse one, just to be tricky. Okay, so next question. Oh, let's check our leaderboard. Okay, oh, Lucky Pelican is edging even further ahead. Lucky Pelican's really good at this. Next question. The Chinese Chang'e 5 moon mission is named after what? Few more seconds for this one. Okay, so the time is up and 52 of you got this one correct. The Chang'e mission is named after a Chinese goddess of the moon, a theme we'll return to shortly. If you haven't been following this mission, it's absolutely spectacular. Beautiful rover roving around on the far side of the moon from Earth and returning some really lovely pictures. Okay, so let's see. Oh, Lucky Pelican still in the lead. Winged Unicorn catching up. Okay, next question. Which of the following major theories of physics was famously tested during a total solar eclipse in 1919? Oh, people answering this one very quickly. Okay, so 46 of you got this one correct. It was the general theory of relativity, Einstein's general theory of relativity, which in the early part of the 20th century had been nicely worked out mathematically, but it predicted all sorts of strange things that a lot of astronomers were not willing to believe until a solar eclipse in 1919, which allowed astronomers to confirm one of the predictions of general relativity, which was that the intense what we would usually call gravity of the sun, but which Einstein referred to as the space-time curvature caused by the sun, that space-time curvature would cause light from distant stars to bend as it passed by the sun. Something that could be checked when the sun itself was being blocked out by the moon so that we could see those distant stars and check how their light was being bent. And indeed it was being bent in the way that general relativity predicted. So another useful bit of science to come from a solar eclipse. Okay, so let's see who's in the lead. Lucky Pelican, but I think the gap may be narrowing on that one. Red Boa looks like catching up. Okay, so next one. Who can see any given solar eclipse? So who can see a solar eclipse? And we mean for a specific one. So if there's any given solar eclipse like the one on Thursday, who can see it? Keep in mind this is a solar eclipse. A few more seconds. Alrighty, so, excellent job. 55 of you, only people in the shadow of the moon, which is correct, right? It's different for lunar versus solar eclipses. I'll show you in a moment why. Let's check our leaderboard. So, I think the lead is still pretty wide. Lucky Pelican still ahead. Red Boa coming up second and Groovy Seal ascending the charts now. So here's a photo of Earth during a solar eclipse. And you can actually see what I showed you in diagram form earlier. This is the dark spot there is the shadow cast by the moon on the Earth. And again, this is during a solar eclipse when the moon blocks the sun. So if you're in that dark part of that shadow, then you would see the total or the nearly total part of the eclipse. Whereas if you're in the kind of faint diffuse region on the outside, you would see a partial eclipse. But only people who are in that shadow see that. Anyone else in this image who isn't in that shadow wouldn't see a solar eclipse at all, which is why solar eclipses are relatively rare as long as you stay home. So if you spend most of your life on one part of the planet, in that particular place, you won't see a solar eclipse very often. If you're willing to move around the planet to catch the next solar eclipse, you can see potentially a few a year. But if you stay home, not as easy. Okay, so we're getting to the last few. In the 2020 Netflix musical Over the Moon, who plays Chang'e? Chang'e is the aforementioned goddess of the moon. Okay, last few seconds. And okay, this was a tricky one. So the correct answer is Philippa Soo, who I believe was originally made famous in the musical Hamilton, if I'm not mistaken. So that's a tricky one. If you haven't seen that film, I recommend it. Really nice film about things I won't spoil, but involving the moon. Okay, let's see. Okay, so Red Boa actually has the highest answer streak of 11, but is still not quite in the lead. Come on, Red Boa, we're pulling for you. And of course, we're also pulling for Lucky Pelican, but who doesn't seem to need our help. Okay, next one, true or false? At any given location on Earth, lunar eclipses are more common than solar ones. True or false? So think back to what we just said about solar eclipses and who can see them. All right, so that is indeed true. Lunar eclipses are more common than solar eclipses from any location. So that means if you stay in Toronto and you don't travel, then you will see lunar eclipses more often than solar eclipses. And that applies wherever you are on Earth. And that's just because to see a solar eclipse, you have to be in the tiny little shadow of the moon. But to see a lunar eclipse, it's a little bit more flexible. we can come back to that. All right, so Lucky Pelican still in the lead. Next question. What phase does the moon have to be in for a solar eclipse to occur? Adam, can you get blinded from looking naked eye to an eclipse? Yes, you can have permanent damage to your eye. You can actually burn an image of the sun into your retina permanently, and there's no treatment for that. Okay, so this is in fact new moon, which we mentioned earlier. So this is hopefully an easier one. So in order for there to be a solar eclipse, the moon has to be between the Earth and the sun, which is the new moon phase, the phase where you see the moon's surface appear dark. Okay, so we have just a couple more questions. Lucky Pelican, ooh, edging ahead even further. Red Boa still catching up. All right, in May 2021, Canada announced plans to send what to the surface of the moon within 5 years? What is Canada going to send to the surface of the moon within 5 years? So this is a recent announcement. Okay, so the answer is a robotic rover. So Canada is already part of plans with the United States to return astronauts at least to the general environment of the moon, to orbit the moon. But very recently, Canada announced plans to send a rover to the surface of the moon, similar to the Chang'e Chinese rover that we saw recently. Okay, we just got a few left. Smooth Koala taking the lead over Groovy Seal and Red Boa. Next one. In this Disney animated film, the end of the age of the dinosaurs is marked by a total solar eclipse. So it's an animated Disney film, end of the dinosaurs with a total solar eclipse. Which one would that be? Few more seconds. And the answer is, very few of you got this. The answer is Fantasia, one of the oldest Disney films of all. There's a beautiful sequence where the dinosaurs are all brought to an end, and then there's a solar eclipse, which isn't really explained in the movie, but that's how it goes. Just so you're aware, solar eclipses do not bring about the end of life on the planet. Do not worry about anything like that happening on Thursday. That's just how the animators did it in that one particular film. Okay, we have, I think, one more question left. So Lucky Pelican still in the lead. Smooth Koala closing in. So I think 2 questions left. The outer layer of the sun that is only easily visible during a total solar eclipse is called what? And you're seeing a picture of it here. Yes, and Jared, I believe you're right. The Land Before Time is not a Disney movie. Alrighty, so the correct answer for this one, as most of you got, is the corona. That beautiful glowy outer layer of the sun is only easily visible during a total eclipse because it's pretty faint. And so unless the main body of the sun is being blocked by something, you can't easily see the corona, which is one reason why a particular kind of telescope that astronomers use, called a coronagraph, does exactly that. It actually puts something in front of the sun or a star so that you can reveal things that are around that star that wouldn't normally be visible because of the light of the star itself. Okay, so Lucky Pelican commanding lead at this point. And our final question. Who wrote the book Nightfall, in which a total solar eclipse on a planet with several suns has apocalyptic consequences? Okay, last few seconds on this one. And the answer is Isaac Asimov. So this is both a short story that was later expanded to become a novel about a planet which has multiple suns. And one day, I won't spoil too much of it for you, but an eclipse leads to a certain amount of chaos on that planet. Okay, so that was our final question for this round of eclipse-related trivia. Let's check and see what the podium looks like. So, in third place, Groovy Seal with 14 correct. In second, Smooth Koala, also 14. And in first place, Lucky Pelican, also 14. So the difference in scores is just accounted for by how quickly people answer. Now, keep in mind, if you don't see your name on the podium and you're disappointed because you didn't win a cool prize, remember that not everybody who is on the podium may have used their real email address, or they may be disqualified for some other reason, and we're just playing along for fun. So we will check through who the winners are and notify you by email if you were one of the prize winners. Other than that, we hope that you have had a great time tonight, and that if you're able to, you get up really early on Thursday morning, set your alarms. Again, if you're in the Greater Toronto area, it's going to be at about 5:45 in the morning, just as the sun is rising, that you will see the eclipse already in progress. If you don't have safe eclipse glasses that are certified safe, don't look directly at it, but you can use a projector, poke a hole in a piece of paper and project it onto another piece of paper, and you can actually see the partial eclipse. You'll see the moon eat a chunk out of the side of the sun. And stay tuned, again, those of you who are in southern Canada, the United States, or Mexico, stay tuned for the really big show in 2024, when we will have a total solar eclipse that will be visible across a lot of southern Canada, a lot of the United States, and parts of Mexico. So lots of fun with eclipses coming up in the next few years. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. I hope you've had a great time. Stay tuned to Dunlap social media. If you'd like to participate in more trivia nights, we will be holding them monthly with lots of great prizes. And if you enjoyed this experience, please like the video or subscribe to us, or both, whatever appeals to you, and we will see you next time.